Welcome to Agents of Abundance, the only podcast that teaches real estate agents who are ready to leave scarcity behind how to build a business that truly supports their best life. I'm your host, Dawn Loding, and each week we explore abundance mindset, leadership, systems, and community to help you move out of survival mode and into sustainable success. Get ready to see things in a whole new way, starting right now. Welcome to the very first episode of Agents of Abundance. I'm Dawn Loding, and I'm so excited for my very first guest on my podcast, Alexandra Taketa. Alexandra, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited. It might just show if you could see my face, like I'm ear to ear grinning because really the current journey that I'm on all started with you. It all
Thank
started
you.
about 3 years ago. I took a course, Alexandra's money mindset course, and I shifted. I shifted so many different things, and it's all because of her. So thank you so much for being my guest today, first of all.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm incredibly humbled and really appreciative to be here. And it's just beautiful to witness your joy and to have had the gift of being on that journey with you. I'm so appreciative and as I said, deeply humbled. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way because let's go back a little bit. So that 3 years ago, it was February of 2023 and I took your course. And I remember calling a mutual friend, April, and saying, "Hey, I really don't have the money to take this course, but I'll find it. Do you think this would be good for me?" And she said, "Absolutely." She's like, "That's what you need, Dawn," right? And I was like, "Okay." So I put it on a credit card and I took it, and my life changed that year. What it did is it led me to start making different decisions. It moved my mindset. Like I was able to change my subconscious mindset about money. And it's so important, and so many people don't realize that's a journey. Like that's a long journey. When you live in scarcity and fight or flight and you want to change over to living in abundance, it's not like just a decision that you make. You have to reframe, reformat, reprogram all kinds of different things in your subconscious mind.
Yes, it is a journey. And it's a journey that begins with a bold and courageous decision like the one that you made.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to commit to this. Yes, I'm going to take a leap of faith. Yes, I'm worth this. Yes, there is a future out there and a possibility that's different than the one I'm living. Yes, I trust myself enough to get there, right? All of
Yeah.
those things, right? It begins with that. And then as you said, it's a continuous decision to change the way that you're thinking, the way that you're acting, the beliefs that you're believing, all of those things, in the moment to moment, small, ordinary pieces of your life, right?
Yeah.
And then that unfolds into creating a different reality.
To creating our freedom, our outer freedom, like the inner work that I did that year. And that's another thing is like I got up every day. I was still doing all my normal stuff and I had to make the time. So I had to get up early and go do the course for 30 minutes to an hour. And honestly, like I had trouble turning it off because I loved it so much. Like I still, to this day, I've probably went in there and redone it 3 or 4 times, just certain things. I'm like, wait, I need to feel like this again. Because if I feel myself getting out of alignment with my freedom, with my abundance, I have to reset and I have to go back in and I'll do it again. And so if you didn't know that I still have that program, like don't turn it off.
It's not going anywhere. But what I love about what you said is that it's actually not that's not unique. I mean, when I've actually gone back and looked through the course data and looked at, how people use the program,
Yeah.
um, unlike a lot of other things, it is something that people circle back to. and they tend to come back to again and again. I mean, 98% of the people who've gone through that course have done it more than once. And I think that says something about the program, and probably also the level of people that's attracted into the program.
Yeah.
It's people that actually really want to make a substantive change in their life and are committed to living life more fully, more abundantly. And I love what you said, Don, about, wait, I want to feel that way again, because there's there's so much truth to that simple statement. I mean, it's so easy to get out of alignment with who you really are and who God designed you to be, right? It's the
Yeah.
noise, the fears, the perspectives, of what's around us can tempt us into believing lies about ourselves. And
Abs
so I think one of the things that I was very intentional about when creating the Money Mastery Academy was to really help people come back to the truth of their own abundance, and really what does that actually sound like and look like in terms of how you speak about yourself and what's possible in your life.
yeah. And not only that, like, it opened up so many more doors for me because I started thinking with an abundant mindset. And really, your course really has set the foundation for a lot of what I teach now. And I teach a whole course called Freedom to Flourish in Real Estate. And it's about abundance, and it's a lifestyle. Abundance is a mindset. It's a lifestyle, and if you're not living it, guess what? That is something that you have to decide to change yourself. So what that course did for me is it started making me look at things different. I switched brokers after being at a certain real estate brokerage for 10 years. And I'm like, "You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results." That's the definition of insanity, and they say that, you hear that all the time, but it's a practice, like, it's something that we really have to do. So your work inspired me to create my work, and that was 3 years ago. So it's come a long way in the 3 years that I've been working on it, and I absolutely love it, and I'm so grateful that I did take that. I ended up coaching with you personally one-on-one for the next year because I'm like, She can help me do that, then I'm gonna coach with her." And that was phenomenal too. So, I love all that. So let's dig in a little bit deeper to why did you do this? So what was your own relationship with money before you started doing this work?
I mean, it really I think they say, you teach what you need to learn.
Mm, 100%.
And this is abundance, money mindset, financial empowerment, however you want to call it. This was that was a journey that I was on from a young age. I grew up in a very, almost like two different lives in a way. My parents were divorced when I was very young. I had, my mom who was a single mom and my sister and sort of, what that life looked like. And then I had my dad and his family. And they were almost like direct opposites in ways. My dad was working a corporate job, had, a tremendous amount of resources. I'd go spend summers with him. We were, on in Maine at our summer house where I played tennis and went sailing and, felt like I sort of had, everything. I had people like enormous amounts of family surrounding me, loving me. And while, at home during the school year with my mom, I had a tremendous amount of love. I was never deprived of love. We didn't really have all of we didn't have the monetary resources. We were on government assistance as kids, having, reduced lunch, things like that. I never felt like I had the money to buy things. A good example would be, when my sister was 2.5 years older, got her driver's license. We wanted to buy a car. I worked the entire summer that I was 14 in an ice cream shop. I made like $1,000. And I remember giving my money over to my sister who'd, worked at a lobster restaurant in Maine. had $1,000. We joined our, $1,000 together. So we had $2,000. Our grandmother graciously gave us $500 and we bought a little blue Toyota Tercel with 80,000 miles on it. Drove that for 2 years. And then I inherited the car, when she went off to college. And so it was kind of like that. That was my experience growing up. And I remember thinking, I want to create something very different for myself. This is not the reality
Yeah.
that I want to live. And I saw the possibility of what else could be, right? So I had that vision. And so it just, I had a lot of beliefs and judgments, and a lot of them were self-focused, in a negative way, right? You're not good enough, you're
Yeah.
poor, you're not worth the same.
Yeah.
And I was looking outside of myself for all sorts of validation, or wanting situations to change in order to feel good about things or to, you know, feel like things were possible. And, there were several different things that unfolded inside my own life where I really came to a breaking point or a turning point where, I realized that, waiting for other people to do things or for situations to change or for external circumstances to be exactly the way I wanted them to be was really a worthless pursuit, and even if I got everything to line up, it would be fleeting. And so I had to do the work inside myself to change my own belief sets, to change my own, get rid of whatever unforgiveness I had, whatever bitterness I was holding on to, whatever beliefs that were not serving me, all of that healing work. I had to go about that.
Yeah.
And that's really, that then started me on a completely different trajectory, really opened up my eyes and my awareness to a completely different life that was possible for myself. And so, I imagined it, I visualized it, I held on to that possibility and then worked to get there. It wasn't like I just sort of like sat and meditated and then bingo,
Yeah.
here comes my abundant life. No, um, I actively participated in letting, God and spirit lead me to the resources and the people and the places and the spaces that helped me to heal, that helped me to open up, that helped me to see myself and my life differently.
So really, like, I mean, you made a decision. Like, you've been through all that, and our childhoods sound so much alike, by the way. And I hear it all the time from different people, especially a lot of entrepreneurs, because we're like, no one's going to do this for me. Like, I got to do this and create this myself. But just making up your mind to do that is it's not enough. Like, mindset alone is not enough. Like, we have to do so much more. And we're going to talk a lot more about that. But how did back then did meditation, because I know I can hardly listen to anybody else's meditations because I'm so addicted to yours. They just have a flow and your voice is so calming, and the future ones, I love all of them. Like, I've done every one of them at least twice, like, right? Like, all of them in the meditation method. So I love that that is available for people. But, let's talk about a little bit about, like, ho that shift. Like, did you do meditating back then? When you were just starting to, change things?
Yeah, I did. And I mean, uh, I think there's like kind of different ways to think about meditation. There's sort of the quiet,
Yeah,
being in the quiet space that's just very restful, where
I can't
you're,
do that.
in the presence of the divine, right? Whether
Yeah,
that's
that's a hard one.
whatever that is for you. And then there's, I think what you're speaking to is some of the guided visualizations and
Mm,
meditation that I do, where it's really more of an inquiry and a space of visualizing, of what's
yes.
possible. And early on in, when I was going through my own work, I was getting my coaching certification and I was introduced to a future self meditation, which I have recorded various iterations of that sort of same concept. And that was really powerful for me, being able to sort of reach out into the future and imagine my life the way that I thought it could be, you know, gave
It
me
gives you
something to aspire to. And
and
yet
it
I
gives
will
you, like
say,
it gives you, like, a power too, like, doesn't it? Like, it just gives you the like, "Oh, wait, this is possible."
yeah, it's possible. And I think God gives us visions of what is possible for us,
Yeah.
you know, because I don't think that they're all self-generated, you know. I mean, I think sometimes it's
Yeah.
selfishly generated, but I think that, you know, God has a vision for us that's, you know, infinitely more beautiful and, you know, masterful than anything we could create, right? There's a saying that said, you know, God is a master creator and we are but imitators, right? And so I believe that. And I think I was given certain visions, you know. I think, you know, spirit operates in mysterious ways. And certainly I was given imagery. You know, there are things that I imagined and visualized that, you know, 20 years later came to be in my
Yeah.
life. And some of it was, you know, much more instant and and you know, weeks or months. And then there were things that were, you know, have played out over years
Yeah.
that I've had to be patient with. But I think that's also how it goes.
Yeah. Well, and I think for me, when I was doing the meditations and changing my life that year, I'd already started a long time ago. Like you, it was a very early age where I knew I wanted more for my life. I got my real estate license 24 years ago. And, you know, I did it with the same old hustle and grind and paycheck to paycheck and just all these different things. I was just living out the scarcity lifestyle over and over until I started researching what that looked like and how do I get out of it. And really, you know, that led me to your content and the meditation method. And one of the things I think that really makes it work is that it gets into your subconscious. Like, I love what you said about God giving us a purpose. Like, we all have a purpose. If we seek that out and we listen to spirit and we try to figure that out, like, we find it and we've found it. So, you know, entrepreneurs and real estate agents, that's our audience here today. Like, I feel like they all have a gift and there's a reason why they were able to do this. They're just not able to, they might be stuck and they're not able to get to that next level or figure out how to actually use that. But a lot of that stuff, it's subconsciously changed. So, all right, let's
Yeah, and we don't realize it because our brains are focused in such a way. I mean, there is, you know, scientific research out there that shows that it's sort of, you know, whatever you, even if you have these buried beliefs that are subconscious, right? 95% of your thoughts are not even thoughts that you know you're thinking, right? They're just sort of like out in the back based on whatever you grew up with, you know, what
yeah,
people around you said, the influences, the trauma, right? All of those things in your life. And so actually getting into that and understanding, okay, here's this belief, like what is the origin of it? You know, is this even true? And really starting to investigate and be curious about things from a very non-judgmental place, then it allows you then to make a choice. Do I want to keep holding on to that or am I going to release that and let that go? Adopt a better belief in my life. And then that's a lot of the work that happens in the very, you know, very, very beginning of that money mastery course. And the meditation work allows you to then imprint those new beliefs much more
yeah.
powerfully, right?
Like
Because
it's
it's a
an
repetition
expansion.
and it's really starting to see yourself in a new light and believe that those new beliefs are possible.
Yeah, these are all things like I feel I call them their tools on my tool belt. And I feel like the meditation method, that is a tool on my tool belt. And it's an expansion tool. Like it helps me to grow and it helps me to recalibrate, refocus, just reset, like, all of these different things, but so many people, they know what they're supposed to do with money, like, they know that they're supposed to save, they know that they're supposed to do this or that, but they don't. Like, they still feel stuck, and they just feel like they can't figure out this whole money game, so the money part of your course, the Money Mastery Academy, like, I know it's like 5 or 6 different series, but you start out with a lot of mindset stories around money. Why do you think it is that people that it's so hard for us, like, as human beings, like, it's so hard for us to know what to do, but not do it?
I mean, there's so many different ways to answer this, but I think it's, everybody wants the world to change, but nobody wants to change themselves,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I think that is the answer
true.
right there. It's
It
a
is.
lot easier to look externally and wait for something else to shift than to actually look inside. But if we actually want the world to change, then we have to let, the love of God into our heart and be the peace that we seek, right? Like that's the way I believe it is. And that means even peace with allowing ourselves to receive money, right? Like that's just one iteration of how that can be. It can be, there's so many different things that the same thing is applicable to, whether it's like you have a habit of sabotaging every relationship, or you have a habit of sabotaging your relationship with money. It's the same sort of principle, right? It actually is inner work it has to start with within. The change always begins within if you want it to be, without, right? And on the outside, right? It's always an inside job. And so we start with those, identifying our money stories and identifying those places of origin where maybe we've adopted different perspectives that are not that helpful. Or I start with identifying what are the ways that is our unique way of self-sabotage so that we can then become aware, right? Because in that awareness, then we have the beginning of transformation, right? We are able to pinpoint, oh, I'm thinking that thing that's really not that helpful, or I'm doing that thing again that, if that keeps playing out will lead to this outcome. And that's not actually what I want. Right. And
Yeah,
so in that awareness, then we open up choice. We open up choice to make a different decision and perhaps think about something differently, believe about something differently, act on something differently. Right. And then in reaction to that, we get a different result. We realize that, we are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. We are the director.
mm,
And so we actually get to choose what we think. We get to choose the way that we act, right? And that is the work of transformation, right? That is the work of transformation, allowing ourselves to be shaped and to be made new into something,
yeah. I love that.
much
It's
more
kind of
beautiful.
like, for me, identity, like, I had to shift my identity that year, and I feel like I did a great job too. And it's like money follows. The identity shift created the money shift, the income shift, because I started making different decisions. And
Yeah,
so
you did.
yeah,
You made a lot of different decisions. I think it'd be powerful for your audience to hear, what did that really tangibly look like for you, Dawn? Because you are one of, hundreds of women who've been through this program that have had very similar results. But like, what were, what, what was the difference for you, like between where you started, right? I don't have the money for this. I'm putting this on my credit card to 3 years later, which honestly is not that much time in
yeah,
the
I
scheme of
know
things.
this work takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. I was gonna say that too. Yeah. But
But even within the first few months, things shifted.
yeah, they did.
And then there were other shifts. So, I mean, I think it would be helpful for your audience to even to hear what did that shift look like for you as an inspiration for your agents?
Yeah. Well, I made the move over to my current brokerage, which is Epique Realty, and that's not going to be a secret in this podcast at all because I love Epique and I love the opportunities that it's providing us as real estate agents. So, I mean, I was interviewing you, Miss Alexandra, but now I'm like, wait a minute, she just switched that on me, but that's okay. Because that year I had been at my previous brokerage for, 10 years. I had in my organization, I had, like, 70 agents. And so, making the shift and the move over and being able to use and implement all of the tools that I was able to add to my tool belt at Epique Realty, and between that and my mindset shift, my money shift, like all of the things I did that year, like by the end of that same year, I had over 100 agents in my downline. Took me less than 6 months to do it, almost
Amazing.
3 months. Now here we are 3 years later, and I've got over 500 in my organization, and I've created awesome tools and things to help the agents do this. That's why I built this whole Agents of Abundance
That's incredible.
podcast.
Good
Like, it
good
is
for you.
incredible.
I want to applaud you because it's a real testament to what is possible if you set the intention and
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
take one step forward. and and I don't, without doing that work, I think you would agree, you could have switched, but you might have just gone back to your old behaviors and sort of ended up with the same sort of results, but you didn't. You made different choices about things.
Yes.
And
Not I mean, I'm just gonna say not always. I teach this stuff, and I know you do too, and we live it daily. But there is never a perfect day. There's never like it's all we're still doing the work. Like, I'm still doing the work. There are times that, I just got through my first Christmas and I didn't use a single credit card. And I was like, "Oh my god." And I just went on a cruise and I didn't use a credit card for that either. Like, these are things that took me 3 years to not be able to do that. I'm still paying off debt. I'm still doing things. This stuff does not happen overnight. But these little shifts, shift after shift after shift, change after change after change, they add up quickly. And before you know it, you're on the right track. And that's where I know that I am. And I know that it's God's purpose for me to I've lived all of the things that I've lived as you did because we are drawn to help others get through this too. So, I love it. Yeah. So,
so good.
yeah, so, so good. But yeah, I think that also there's a lot to be said about aligning. Alignment, what you're aligning with in your business as well as your mindset, your coaches, your trainers, like all of these different decisions. Something that I've learned is I'm going to give a plug to somebody else. Adrienne, there's this girl that has this YouTube channel and her name is Adrienne and she's called Yoga with Adrienne. Her whole program is find what feels good. And I love that, and I use that all the time now, and I search from inside, like, "Does this feel good? Is this something that I wanna continue to allow in my life?" And if it doesn't, guess what? I'm not gonna do it anymore. And so I think that aligning with the right things and knowing what's right for you and not making decisions from a fear base, but instead of an aligned place, like, I think that that's huge too.
I would agree. I mean, I think that there is whatever it is that we're consuming is forming us, right? Whatever is around us, whatever we're, spending time focused on or, putting energy into is part of what we are becoming, and it could be, whatever we're scrolling through on our phone to the newsletters that we're reading, to the people that are coaching us, to the, um, just the rooms that we hang out in, right?
Yeah.
And what's around us. And while I agree that there's a real benefit of internalizing things and going like, does this feel good? Sometimes we are asked to do things that don't feel good, that are just uncomfortable and that are painful and that, feel risky or challenge us and you know, our old ways of being. So I think your point is a good one in that we want to make sure that what's around us, what we're doing is in alignment with where we actually want to go. Sometimes we are asked and invited into things that are uncomfortable because it's actually the right way to go too.
Yeah, and I get that because, like, I've started speaking on stages last year, and that was extremely uncomfortable, and it did not feel good, but it was still aligned with what I'm doing, and like, you just have to really sit with it and make that decision, but I decided that was something that I wanted to do because it was part of my whole purpose. So, yeah, I agree. But some things don't feel good, like charging up those credit cards and doing things like that. That does not feel good, and that's not in
They
alignment.
might feel good initially, and so here's what I would say is that I think understanding the role of feelings is really important, but not
Yeah.
bowing down to them, right? So recognizing that feelings are often fleeting and changing, and so if we're only asking the question, "How do I feel?" it may not
Yeah.
be a good enough question.
Why
And
do I feel
so
this way?
it's yeah, and like what is it I'm actually desiring? You know,
Mm,
what really is in alignment with my purpose, right? And then what's going to take me there? Because there could be the initial high of, yeah, I'm going to buy that thing and I'm going to go on a shopping
yeah.
spree and woo, you know, but the truth of that is that it could just be an old sabotaging habit where, you know, you don't, maybe your parents spent, you know, every last dime and there was always this sort of feast or famine mode. And so that's what you're anchoring back into. And is that really what you want to anchor into? Or do you want to anchor into a truth that is, I actually deserve to, you know, to be in true abundance, that, you know, it is safe for me to earn money and keep it, right? Like that is a very different truth, right? And so anchoring into that helps you then make different decisions. Ah, okay, I could get the temporary high of spending all this money, but again, that high will be fleeting and I'll just be left trying to fill another void.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Once you get that, then you don't wanna do that. So, I love it. Okay, we are entering the last part of this, and I always want to give my listeners some things to actually walk away with. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions and just give me some advice to give them. What's one money belief for everyone to release? A money belief that we can release.
I think a root belief would be, you know, not being enough or feeling unworthy. And the, you know, the belief transfer would be, you know, I am enough, right? That
Oh,
God created you inherently worthy as you are. And
love it.
there's no need to earn that or prove that. You are worthy. You
Yeah.
are enough. And that includes receiving money.
I love that. Okay, what's one daily practice that listeners can start on now to implement that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a great idea. I love your whispering. I think meditation is great. I mean, I think there's lots of different ways. I think you
Yeah.
could pray. I think you could, you know, read the Bible. I think you could journal. I think you could go on a silent walk and just, you know, feel God's presence in nature and realize that you're part of a masterful creation.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do that. I think you
Okay.
need to pick the one that really resonates with you and that feels like you can actually do it and you want to do it.
I love that. I love that. Okay, last question. What is one way that people unknowingly block abundance?
Oh my gosh, there's so many ways. We don't allow ourselves to receive it is the first one that comes to mind. Somebody gives you a compliment. "Oh, you know, that's just that thing I bought on sale." We deflect it. Somebody wants to buy you dinner or coffee, whatever you, oh, no, 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 I insist I'm going to pay. Right. Again, we deflect it. We get gift cards for Christmas and they sit in a drawer and we never even spend them.
Mm,
You know, we just sort of like treat it as if it's something that doesn't even matter. I mean, there's so many ways, Dawn,
yeah, when
but those are
abundance is a
just,
gift. Yeah, I get it.
yeah, abundance is a gift. The way that we speak about ourselves in ways that are, you know, based in lack or scarcity thinking or negativity, we
Mm.
block it.
Wow, what a great conversation. I've looked forward to this and I knew it was going to be good and it was amazing. Thank you so much. Where can people find you these days? Let's talk about that for a quick moment. Like, what are you doing these days? Where are you going? I know you have some stuff on Instagram. Are you still currently doing that?
I'm on Instagram and you can find me under my name,
Yeah, you have a great website.
Alexandra.Taketa. You can also find me on my website
And I'm
there,
gonna put all of that
alexandrataketa.com.
I'm gonna put all of that in the notes, show notes, so you can
Yeah,
find
those
Alexandra's info.
the last couple years I've been working on I still have my course, I still have all those things,
Mhm.
but I really felt pulled in a new direction and was divinely guided to a book to write, which I originally
Can't
planned
wait.
to be about financial abundance. And then I realized that there was a different plan.
Yeah.
So I've been writing that book and I would say it is about abundance still, but it's reimagining abundance, not so much from a financial empowerment perspective, but from the perspective of receiving God's love. And so it is a spiritual book, it's a Christian book, and I think it's going to be really amazing for readers. Yeah, that's what I'm on. I'm on the
Love
journey of
it.
writing that, finishing up that manuscript, and ideally publishing it within, will be out this year.
I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being my guest today. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful that you were on my path to abundance, and I just love you to death. So thank you very much.
Dawn, it's mutual. Thank you so much for inviting me. I love you to death as well. And I love your story. And I'm thrilled for your audiences and for this new adventure for you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Thank you for spending this time with me on Agents of Abundance. If today's episode helped you see a new possibility, helped you pause and reflect, and notice what abundance could look like in your own business, if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find more ways to connect with me in the show notes. Until next time, keep building with intention, and remember, when you move out of scarcity, everything begins to flourish.